broken Kanu's way, and is right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?
Hello Arsenal fans, and welcome back to a new episode of Can You Believe It, an Arsenal podcast. And I'm talking to you after Arsenal have qualified to the semi-finals of the Europa League. Wow, what a performance last night. It was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure you guys did as well. And it's booked us a tie against Villarreal in the semi-finals against Unai Emery, who's returning to the Emirates. It's a very good performance to talk about. There were a lot of things that we done well in the game, and we had ended the tie basically after the third goal, and it was a really, really good performance. We will get into the logistics of that as well soon enough. So let's just talk about the lineup like we always do. And Bernd Leno started in goal, of course. Callum Chambers continued at right back with Rob Holding, Pablo Mari and Granit Xhaka at left back again. So it was the same defence that played against Sheffield United and obviously kept that clean sheet. I thought Gabriel would come in for Mari. I thought Cedric potentially would have came in instead of Granit Xhaka. But no, he kept the back four the same, and fair enough. They done well on the day on Sunday, and they done well last night as well. So credit to the manager for keeping that lineup. And then Partey and Ceballos in midfield with Saka on the right this time. Smith Rowe returning. Nicolas Pepe getting a start on the left this time, and Alexandre Lacazette up front as the captain. Now, before the game, a few things. So, Aubameyang confirmed literally just as we were about to kick off that he has been diagnosed with malaria and that he was in hospital with it. Now, obviously, I wish Aubameyang a speedy recovery. Obviously, he's gone through a lot this season. Obviously, he had personal tragedy in his family with his mother. Obviously, like, they had a family incident. And obviously, his form personally as well has been pretty poor this season. He's obviously had moments, but it has been pretty poor. And then obviously he comes back here with malaria after going with Gabon. He's had a tough time with Gabon because he had to sleep on the airport floor when he was on one of the trips on the international break. So, you know, he's had a lot. And obviously a lot of the talk beforehand, I think I even answered a question in the last podcast about Aubameyang, is it another Ozil situation? And I just defended him because I thought if he's ill, he's ill. And thank God that a lot of people have changed their stance, because a lot of people were thinking it was like an Ozil situation where he was faking to not travel up to Sheffield. And obviously it's not a situation like that anymore. It's something a bit more serious. So obviously we wish him a speedy recovery. He was out for this game, as well as Martin Odegaard. So it was a lot of changes, two big players for us that are missing. So, I mean, we handled it very well in general, but these were two big players that you would think would have made a difference with us. I mean, they made a difference against Olympiacos, so they were big misses. And another thing before the game, 100% the right decision from Lacazette and the boys to take a knee before the game. It was an absolutely iconic and very moving image that's been going around of all the Arsenal players standing in front on a knee in their fight against racism against Slavia Prague, obviously the team that had that incident with Glenn Kamara, ex-Arsenal player from Rangers. So that was a really good statement, and well done for Arsenal for standing up. And it was apparently Lacazette and some of the other senior players' ideas to do that, and Arteta and the club completely backed him. So I completely respect that. They done a really good thing, and happily the performance matched up with those statements before the game. So let's get into the actual game here. I think we started a bit tentatively. Slavia Prague had a shot, but I think what has been good about Arsenal this season is some of our better performances is our pressing. Now, I'm not saying that we are going full Jurgen Klopp gegenpressing. We're not like that at all. but we're smart with our pressing. We mark them very well. We don't allow them to get out, and we've done that very well. And we keep winning the ball up higher up in the pitch, and we keep being able to go forward. And it didn't take long for our first shot to go into the net in terms of Emile Smith-Rowe. So Saka on the right, cut in, and again, in the first leg, Saka was absolutely terrorising his other half, Borrell, I think it was, the captain on the night, his opponent, and he was just nowhere near him on the night. Again, cuts in from the right, curls in a beautiful effort, the keeper gets a hand to it, and it hits the post, and Emile Smith-Rowe taps in. You think it's 1-0, but it was ruled out for VAR, a really long, agonising VAR debate in terms of how long it took, and as well as no replays being showed to the fans on TV, so it made it very difficult. So they're giving us the stadium experience, I guess. Yeah, it was ruled out for VAR, it was quite close, but what I liked about this team is the response. The response was fantastic from Arsenal. They didn't allow that goal to put their heads down. They went for it again, and it wasn't long afterwards where Arsenal again were pushing up higher up the pitch. They were doing very well. Partey passes it to Callum Chambers, who fizzes a ball into Lacazette, who first time touches it to Emile Smith-Rowe. Emile Smith-Rowe tries a shot. He's dribbling past. He nutmegs one of the defenders, nutmegs another defender with a pass. He gets it to Pepe, who delays the shot. He's getting fouled. He probably could have gone down for a penalty. Delays the shot and then buries it. And what a goal that was. Firstly, Emile Smith-Rowe was absolutely outstanding on the night, and in terms of that play, he was absolutely outstanding. You don't know how important it is for Arsenal to not only get Bukayo Saka, but another academy product performing at this level in Emile Smith-Rowe. What a player he is. And since he's come in since Christmas, he's been absolutely a revelation, and that's credit him. I know it took Arteta a long time to bring him in. He obviously had injury issues at the start of the season, but he's been terrific. And his play here completely set up Pepe, and who's another player who has improved in 2021. He looks like a player now that looks dangerous, that looks like he is always a scoring threat. And he was here tonight. He got a goal and assist on the night, and we'll talk about his assists later on. But the finish was great, and I had no doubt that he was going to finish it. I think that's what I have increased in my judgment in Pepe, is that he's very clinical. And when he gets into these areas, he just does something and you know you can trust him. I think it's a bit different with other players. Sometimes with Saka, for example, I don't get as much as confidence as I do with Pepe. That's not to say Pepe's not going to miss chances. He is going to miss chances, but I just think he's a very clinical player. He's a very end product player, and credit him, he's done fantastic since 2021, so he's done really well. So it was 1-0, we cancelled their away goal. Terrific. But what I loved about it is that we didn't allow them to rest, and we got a second goal very quickly afterwards as well. So it's lovely one-touch football again from Arsenal. So it's holding to Saka, who first time passes it back to Chambers. And again, this goes back to Emile Smith-Rowe, pacing behind. He's not obviously the quickest, but he sensed that danger. He sensed that he could get into some space. He went forward. Chambers plays him forward. He does really well, dribbles forward. You always have confidence with him because he's such a technically secure player. Passes it to Bukayo Saka, who gets fouled. Penalty. Even if it wasn't given a penalty, I had a lot of confidence that Pepe would have scored the chance anyway. So, penalty. Lacazette steps up after his confidence and after his defiance against the Slavia Prague before the game, slots the penalty home. I mean, I have so much confidence as Lacazette in terms of penalties. He's in really good form at the moment, Lacazette, and the penalty you had no doubt in. And 2-0 up. So at this stage, Slavia had to beat us on the night. So they had to score 3 goals on the night. They couldn't score 2 because we would be going away with 2 away goals and we would be going through. So it really put us in a really commanding position. But then, only 3 minutes later, we score a third. And again, Callum Chambers is doing brilliant at right back here. So he gets quite a heavy ball, but he cuts in on his right, so to make sure the defender doesn't get it. He first time passes it with his left. It's a gorgeous pass. And Saka cuts in and curls in or strikes in, one of the two, into the bottom corner to make it 3-0 Arsenal. Oh my lord. What a performance. And we completely killed the tie within 25 minutes. It was terrific. We were absolutely flying. And obviously, I sat here in this podcast last week and I said I was nervous. I thought we would go out because Slavia haven't been a team who have lost at home since November 2019. And we came here and killed the tie, won the game within 25 minutes. It was fantastic. Bukayo Saka, I mean, what else can you say about him? Player of the season by a country mile. He's been absolutely terrific. The finish was something he made look easy. It was definitely not easy. And yeah, 3-0 up. My lord. We were in dreamland. And then the rest of the half, it was just a controlled performance. And we went into the second half with real confidence that we were going to go through into the next round and into the semi-finals. When we came out into the second half, Slavia Prague made 4 changes. And it was, to me, something like, I think we're just going to get out of here. We know we're going out. Just damage limitation at this point. We made a couple of changes ourselves, and then he came on for the impressive Smith Rowe, who's fantastic again on the night. And then we got a fourth, and it was Pepe down the left, who fizzes a really good ball into Lacazette, who dribbles around and finishes it with his left foot. Another brace, so 4 goals in 2 games for Lacazette. He's been really good recently. He goes through these patches. He's very Giroud in terms of how he gets his goals, because I think sometimes Arsenal have these players who consistently score goals, but I think Lacazette scores in bunches, so he will go 6 games without a goal and then he'll score 5 or 6 in 3 games. So that's his 17th goal this season for Lacazette, captain on the night. He's only actually scored more goals in one season, and that was the 18-19 season where he scored 18 goals. So he's looking like he can probably get 20 plus this season, which is really impressive. Now, my feelings about him is that he's been a great servant for us. I would still sell him. I would still look to get rid of him. Now, potentially you have that option of just keeping him for a free and then letting him go for free next summer. I think the worst option out of all the 3 that I've just stated is giving him a contract. I know I'm saying this after he's done really well the last 2 games, but ultimately we gave Aubameyang that contract. We can't give Lacazette another contract. Just let him go for free next season. I'm completely fine with that. If you can't get a striker in the summer, if you want to delay it by another year, I'm fine with that. As long as you do get in a striker when Lacazette leaves, it also allows another year for Martinelli to develop, another year for Balogun to develop. Obviously, he's staying now. These are players that could potentially save us millions, like Smith Rowe and Saka have. So it is something to think about. I know he's done really well, and credit him for doing very well, but it is something to think about as well, because I had some people on Twitter saying, well, we shouldn't sell him, and ultimately this is the trap that you can fall into. Like I said, I really like Lacazette, but I think it's just the right thing to do is to probably let him go, and probably let him go for free. I think that's a smart option. I know we won't get any transfer fee for him, but I doubt we're going to get any transfer fee for him in the summer anyway. So 4-0, we saw some more changes. Gabriel Martinelli, Nketiah, Cedric and Balogun came on. Martinelli had a really good chance from the left wing to score. He dribbled past his defender very easily and probably should have put it in the bottom corner for a 5th. But it was fine. 4-0 finish, full time, 5-1 on aggregate. A really good performance. Really top performance in Europe again. And we're in the semi-finals. We're 3 wins away from a European trophy, which also brings us back into the Champions League. Now, I've said many times on this podcast, obviously being in the Champions League is good financially because we will get more money. It will help us get more targets, more players, the players that we need and the players we require. But for me, I'm looking more at the fact that we can win a European trophy. The first one since 1994. Arsenal are not a good team in Europe. They haven't been successful in Europe. And this is where we need to start rectifying that. I mean, Arsene Wenger never won a European trophy in all his time at Arsenal. He was here a long, long time. And again, I've mentioned it before, I haven't seen Arsenal win a European trophy. I know it's not the Champions League. Obviously, it would be a dream to win the Champions League. And hopefully one day we can do that. But we have a real chance to win the Europa League. I know we're facing Villarreal. I know Unai Emery is coming back. I know he hasn't lost a two-legged tie in 21 games. That's a really impressive record. But a lot of players have a point to prove against this old manager. You've got David Luiz, who you could see by his performances didn't like Unai Emery. You've got Granit Xhaka, who obviously had that argument with the fans after he became a lightning rod from Unai Emery's selections and poor performances. You've got Nicolas Pepe, who didn't seem to trust Unai Emery at all. And Emery was reluctant to play him a lot at all. And Arsenal have players now that have a point to prove, and I hope they do prove that point and go through to a Europa League final. And then at that stage, anything can happen. If it is Manchester United, so be it. I want to avoid that. Hopefully Roma beat them. Hopefully we get through. But ultimately, Europe is massive for us. It basically seems like we're going to be in the Champions League or we're not going to be in Europe next season. So this is a real importance. Not only will it signify some legacies for some players and even the manager as well. I mean, he would have won a European trophy when Arsene Wenger didn't. Obviously, George Graham won one with the Cups, Winners' Cup, but the UEFA Cup or the Europa League is a more prestigious trophy than that. So we have a chance here, and that's what all my focus is going to be on for the rest of the season. I know we have Premier League games coming up. I know we have Fulham on the weekend. We still have a London derby against Chelsea, but ultimately, the chance to win a trophy, the second one in 2 years, and a European one, the first one since 1994, is all that's on my mind. And I just hope this team does it. We have a great chance. 3 wins. Let's do this, boys. Please, 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 please. So I've got 2 questions here on this podcast. So again, you can ask me any questions at AFC Met on Twitter. The first question is from @thestuff123, and they ask, who do we replace Luiz with? I think next season is going to be a difficult one because I think David Luiz, I wouldn't give a new contract just because I think he's a player that we should move on from. I know he's been really good this season. He's had a much better season this season than he did last. But I think when you've invested nearly £30 million on a central defender, one that if we hadn't signed originally, we probably would be looking at as a potential signing, that kind of calibre, you should use him in William Saliba. And he's had a really good loan spell away with Nice. We need to bring him back and use him. I know Arteta, I don't know if he rates him, but I think this is a player that we have to use and we have to get the most out of. We can't be letting him go. Remember the hype in terms of how much fans were interested in him coming, but also how much the French fans were telling us how good he was. And hopefully Arsenal bring him back and integrate him. And I think the only way they can do that is if Rob Holding's probably first choice next season with Saliba battling him out and Luiz leaving for free. And it's unfortunate because, again, I didn't really like the Luiz deal when he joined. But ultimately, he's actually been a decent servant for us. He's done decently for us. And if he leaves with a Europa League trophy, that's fantastic. Hopefully we can do that. You obviously also have Mavropanos, I think it's probably best to sell him. I think he's done very well in the Bundesliga, but I think it's probably best for him to be sold. We can get some decent cash for him. Not a lot, but something. And obviously Callum Chambers has been doing really well at right back. He's obviously got the potential to play right centre back, but obviously his future will be linked to Hector Bellerin, to Ainsley Maitland-Niles, these players that we have to figure out what we're going to do with them. So hopefully the right centre-back issue is sorted out next summer, and hopefully Luiz is not given a new contract. That's what I will do. I just hope Arsenal are as smart and don't give another contract to Luiz. But thanks for your question. And last question from @MarieEscobarStan. Great username. And they ask, if Lacazette is set to go this summer, who do you think could be a suitable replacement in your opinion? Obviously, we're assuming that Lacazette is going to go this summer. I don't think he will, but we're just going to assume it for this scenario. I think obviously the links to Edouard are really good ones, because I think he's a striker that can hold the ball up, back to goal. I think are players that can link up other players into terms of play. I think it's difficult because obviously you've given Aubameyang a new contract, and if you're going to establish him as the centre forward, then I think it's a bit more tricky to bring in a centre forward who will understudy Aubameyang. And obviously Aubameyang plays in a completely different way, so you may need another goal scoring wide man, for example. I think Edouard is something of a target. I think he's a good target. I wouldn't mind someone like Ollie Watkins. I think he's done very well at Aston Villa, but I think he might be out of our budget now. Obviously, people will say Calvert-Lewin, but again, he's way out of our budget now. So these are obviously players that are in the Premier League. They're a bit Premier League proven. I know people have said Patrick Bamford, but I just don't think he scores enough. I know he's had a really good season for Leeds, but I don't really think he should be an attractive option. And then obviously you've got strikers abroad, but I think they're all strikers that we probably can't afford. So I've seen some reports about Lukaku. There's no chance we're going to get him. And obviously you have someone like Tammy Abraham, who's not having a good time at Chelsea in terms of people blocking his pathway now. And if Chelsea do go for someone like Haaland, then you could easily see Abraham leaving. I wouldn't mind Abraham at Arsenal. I think he had a decent season when he first came into the Chelsea side. So I think people have underrated him a bit, but Chelsea won't sell to us. So I think that's a bit of a pipe dream on my behalf. But there are options. I think Edouard is the one that makes the most sense, just because we've dealt with Celtic before. He obviously has Kieran Tierney here. It's also one that will go cheaper because Celtic won't demand a fee as much as an Aston Villa or a Chelsea or a Leeds would for one of their strikers. So I think it is something that we can think about. There's obviously, if you want to go to the Championship, you've got Ivan Toney as well for Brentford, who's done very well this season. And buying from the Championship is not actually that bad anymore. I think players, especially attacking players, are actually a bit more of a premium now in terms of they come into the Premier League and actually hit the ground running. You got James Maddison, you got Mason Mount, you got even Emil Smith-Rowe this season. These are players that all had loan spells in the Championship. Tammy Abraham, like I mentioned earlier, they all had loan spells in the Championship, or they were playing for a Championship club and were doing very well, and then came to the Premier League and done just as well, or even exceeded their game at a higher level. So I think some people do turn their noses up at Championship players, but I think these are players that could be an option for us. But obviously it depends on how much money we have. If we obviously win the Europa League and go into the Champions League, maybe we can attract a better striker. Maybe Ollie Watkins or maybe Calvert-Lewin. These could be options that we could potentially find. But without Champions League, then I don't know what kind of budget we will have. So I don't know what kind of striker we can target. But it's definitely a good option. If it was me, I'd probably go for Edouard. But thanks for your question. And that's the end of the podcast. So again, You can ask me any questions at AFC Met on Twitter. Please like and share this podcast. I post it on YouTube, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And we've got a big game this weekend against Fulham. One game that hopefully we can win, go higher up in the table. But it's been a good week for Arsenal. 2 very impressive wins. We've scored 7 goals. What more can you ask for? But hopefully we get a good win against Fulham. But until then, come on you Gunners.
Well, it's broken Kanu's way, and Huli's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?